This is Behind the Mic. Local and worldwide interviews with athletes, entertainers, and you. A talk show that will engage, inform, and take you to the edge, maybe even over. Now, from the Big Z studios in suburban Chicago, here's the host of Behind the Mic, Gary Zahara.
Thanks, Mitch. My next guest's career spans almost 40 years, from theater, film, and a prominent role on the Emmy-winning police drama NYPD Blue. He spent the past 12 years as the artistic director of the Antaeus Theater Company in Los Angeles, giving aspiring actors a chance to hone their craft before stepping down this past September. Actor and best-selling author Bill Brochtrup joins me behind the mic right after this.
Team Keys and your financial services division manager, Whitley Brooks Edmondson, specializing in affordable insurance and investments. Call 248-403-0919 to book your appointment. Slugmaster, turning batters into hitters. Log on to slugmaster.com for a dealer near you.
His role as PAA John Irvin was, in my opinion, a brilliant casting decision by Stephen Bochco, a perfect fit for the motley crew of the 15th Squad, especially Detective Andy Sipowicz. Please welcome award-winning author, spoken word artist, and actor, Bill Brochtrup. Hey, Bill, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. I've wanted to have you on. I mean, NYPD Blue is one of my top show of all time, so it's good to talk to you. I appreciate you and Eric working out the time to come on the show.
Thank you, my pleasure. Happy to talk with you.
How was your summer in LA? What's been going on?
Well, you're in Chicago, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just there. I was my oldest nephew got married at Labor Day, and so I was the officiant of the wedding. So first time doing that, online minister thing.
Just like John Irvin,
yeah.
NYPD Blue, right? There you go. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. We were kind of talking about that. Yeah. I did it on the show, and then I had the opportunity to do it in real life this last Labor Day in Chicago, where we all had the whole, two families coming together, and we had a brilliant time.
Were you in the city or suburbs? Where were you at?
Oh no, right on the river, on the river.
Okay.
Beautiful. Lucky with the weather over Labor Day, where it was gorgeous and not too hot. Barbecue on the lake. So we had a brilliant time.
Good. So we wanted to schedule this interview because you said you were busy in the month of November. You got some projects coming up. What's going on in the future?
Well, it's more of I'm a big fan of hiking and trekking, and so I'm heading to Patagonia to walk the W Trek in Chile and Argentina, and so I'll be going for most of November.
Oh boy, is that a rugged terrain for you? Or does it take how long is it? Do you do daily and camp out at night, or what do you do?
Yeah, but this is not like walking the Appalachian Trail or the or Pacific Crest or something. I mean, this is hut to hut, so you're staying in. You get by the end of the night, you get to like some kind of a refugio or something to stay in. So it's a little more not intense particularly.
How long you been doing that?
I walked the Camino de Santiago. If maybe you've heard of that, it was an ancient medieval pilgrimage walking across Spain. A lot of people do it now, not for religious reasons, or some do, but it's become very popular. So I walked that in 2016, and it's like 500 miles across Spain, and I got really hooked with these kind of long distance walking trips.
Well, maybe I should do that. I can maybe get some better shape, drop a couple of chins here. What do you think?
Well, it's very nice when you have nothing to really do but walk, eat, and sleep. It's a very mindful way to be.
Nice. You talked about in the open here, you ended your 12-year run as artistic director of the Antaeus Theater this past September. Talk about that part of your life and why you moved on.
Oh, well, I've always been involved in the theater. That's my first, I was one of those kids who did plays in high school and whatnot. So I've always loved the theater. It was sort of not my idea even to have a career in television, particularly. I always wanted to work on the stage, and I continue to do that all the time. And this is a group in Los Angeles of really the best classical theater actors in Los Angeles who many have made their living over the years in film and television, but now younger people, it's become harder and harder to do that. So we're trying to pay people more, which is a good thing. And but it's a company that does basically the classics, Shakespeare and Chekhov and all the great world literature, and some new plays as well. And so I've been doing that for 12 years. I was the artistic director of the company, which is sort of overseeing all the seasons, hiring the directors, working with the casting, kind of overseeing all the projects that we do. A lot of fundraising as well, and 12 years is a long time to do that. A friend of mine said there's a 10-year job. And so I did it for 12, and very happy to have just turned it over to a wonderful actor who's in our company, a woman called Nikki Dukas, who has taken over from me just this last month. And last night we had the opening of The Importance of Being Earnest, which is the next play we have there. And that's a play that I chose for the season, and put the creative team together, and now Nikki has taken over as we shepherded it to the opening night, which was last night. So it was very gratifying to be there in the audience and cheer everybody on.
Very nice. Was the SAG-AFTRA strike? Does that affect the theater as well, or is that a separate thing when it happened?
It's a separate thing. Our unions
Okay.
are different. We fall under the Actors Equity, which is the stage union. But a big strike in town has an effect on everybody and everything that happens. So while that's not the contract we're working under, the effects are throughout, because most every actor, certainly in Los Angeles, works in all those mediums.
You talked about getting a start early in theater. Talk about growing up in Tacoma, Washington, and what piqued your interest in starting at the ripe old age of 12 in theater.
I was born in Los Angeles.
Right.
I was born in Inglewood. My folks were born here. My grandparents all came to LA in the 20s. So I guess we're kind of a California family. But we moved up to the Seattle area when I was young. And, I started doing plays at school, but I started doing community theater plays, where I was like the precocious kid and got to hang out with a bunch of adults. Seemed like super cool to me to be hanging out with all the older people. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the sense of camaraderie that comes when you put on a play together. Everybody's relying on one another. That curtain goes up at 8 p.m. if you're ready or not. It's happening. So
Right.
there's something very exciting about the forced family that kind of creates. And I've always loved that. And I still love that. So, I did that in high school. I went to NYU to study that as well. And I came out here, and even in Los Angeles, which is, obviously a film and television town, it's also a theater town, and people don't realize that sometimes. And I often feel like I'm kind of a spokesperson for LA theater and the vibrancy that it has. Oh, as does Chicago, of course, you probably know that. And so I always have kept my foot in the theater world, and I was always doing plays throughout our hiatuses or anytime I had the opportunity, and still do.
It doesn't matter who I interview. Is it actors, athletes, or musicians? I always ask this question when I asked growing up. I said, you had no interest in sports. You just were right into theater
Oh boy,
and drama.
I it's funny that you say that, because I'm working with this. I'm very LA. I'm working with this trainer now,
Okay.
and who's like, "Oh, you're actually very athletic," and because I never thought that I was, and never was like where I sort of. He's like, "Yeah, you could have done this, you could have done that," like in school or whatever, and so it made me think like, yeah, in many ways, I just didn't feel like that was my world. Kind of, I was much more comfortable with the crazy sort of outcasty types in the theater department that I was with the athlete people. But it makes me sad now, because I wish I had had the confidence to kind of pursue some of those things, because certainly now, like with the trekking and everything, I mean, I really enjoy the outdoors. I really enjoy being outside, and so I wish I had pursued that more when I was a kid. I do. But I was on the soccer team like when I was in elementary school. Oh my God. All I can remember is like it was freezing, raining, cold, running up and down the field, hoping they wouldn't kick the ball at me.
Right. I'm
So
a lacrosse referee, so I'm running 100 yards or 60-yard sprints, and I'm carrying about 250, 255. So I feel your pain. I hated running even when I played sports in
and it
high
was
school and
always
college.
freezing and wet. In Seattle, it's always just
Yeah.
wet and cold, and it'd be like run up the thing, run down the thing, run up the thing, run down the thing. and I just wasn't super good. I was also on a basketball team in like middle
All
school, and
right.
I can
Okay.
remember, like, honest to God, I feel like I never quite understood all the rules. I feel like I stood there and was like, which basket are we going for? So it was just never my, I mean, I just never quite felt comfortable.
Well, the first step is to admit you don't know the rules when you're playing a
Yeah,
game.
right. I
So,
should have said it early on. Maybe someone would have explained them to me, but I just remember, I honestly can remember being on the court and being like, we're going this way, right? This is us going this way.
well,
That's not a great place to be.
looking at you with your John Irvin character on NYPD Blue, the way you looked, I would have taken you for like a cross country runner or something.
I wish I got into that. Yeah, I mean, I was up in Oregon. A lot of my family lives up in Bend, Oregon, and we were just I was just up there the other week, and there's a big cross country thing in a park there, like all the high school kids, from all over the town running cross country. And I was like, oh, that looks great. I wish I had. Yeah, I wish I had. Wish I
All right,
had.
so you grew up in Tacoma doing your theater at 12 years
Mhm.
old, and then as you
Uh-huh.
graduate high school, you go all the way to NYU, the Tisch School of Arts.
Yeah.
What was the draw to that school?
During my junior year in high school, I went to Northwestern for a summer program. They got a summer program of theater students there. You go during your junior year. It's called Cherubs. A lot of people, if you bring it up in the theater community, people are like, "Oh, you were Cherub." Yeah. So I spent a summer in Northwestern. Um, that humidity, that's the thing I remember the most. I was like, I didn't even know what humidity was. I was like, wow, this is a shock.
Yeah.
But I also met kids from all over the country who were also, like me, if you will. There were kids who cared about art and wanted to have futures in show business. And I really did consider going to Northwestern. But the idea of going to New York and getting to the city was very alluring to me. So I did. I honestly, it's not my best decision, I think, just personally. I did not super enjoy my NYU time. It was
That's a
very,
long way from Tacoma. That's a long drive. Like
yeah,
Christian Clemenson grew up in Humboldt, Iowa, and he went all the way to Harvard and Yale to study, and then went
yeah.
to LA. So, your trek after the Tisch School of Arts, then you pack your bags, head to LA to start on stage. Was that your plan to start in the theater, or
Well,
did
I left NYU and I was in Seattle for a little while, and I
okay?
got my kind of union cards. We talk about Actors Equity and all of our union things, and I got my SAG card up there. I did a guest star on a television show that happened to be filming up there. And so that was all kind of fortuitous. And in the interim, I was thinking I would go back to New York, but I had friends who had moved to LA who were like, "You should come down here. You should come down here." So I sort of did, and then fell into the theater, and from there fell into television. And I've been here ever since. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I've really been in LA like, since I moved here at 21, so a long time.
David Dimitrell was on the show, Christian Clemenson, and of course, and your co-star Gordon Clapp from NYPD Blue. I asked him this question: Does starting out in the theater better prepare you to break into Hollywood for certain dramatic roles, or both?
I think the answer everyone wants to say, and I love all those guys that you just mentioned. Those are all awesome actors who I totally respect, and I'm
Gordon
big
says
fans
hi,
of
by the
all
way,
of
because I
them.
told him I
Oh
wanted to
my
have you
God, I
on.
love
So
them
yeah,
all. I just saw David Dean Bottrell's one-man show, which is brilliant. He's always brilliant, and he's been a big inspiration to me. And Gordon, of course. Um, Yeah, I think the answer you're supposed to give is like, oh, theater actors are the best actors, and all the actors that you really admire are all the Judi Denches of the world, whatever, are theater actors. The truth is, well, I think that's true, and I think it's sort of a different skill set, and I really love it. But there are lots of great actors who've never worked in the theater at all, who do great jobs, and so you can't just sort of say, this makes you a good actor and this doesn't. I wish it was that simple. I wish the trajectory was that clear. It's not. It's
it's
like
more of
there
a
are
personal
people.
choice then, right? What you feel comfortable with
I think
first, or
so.
yeah,
Do you mind this would be a little NYPD Blue like thing that I just remember. When Rick Schroeder was on the show, I was doing a play in New York the summer that we were doing a hiatus,
hmm
and they came to see the show. All the people who were in New York at the time, because they did some filming there, came to see it. And he said to me like, so let me understand this. You say those same lines every night? You do those same things every night? And I'm like, yeah, it's a play. We do this every night. But he didn't know that. And this is not to make fun of him because he's been an actor since he was like a child and he's a wonderful actor, but it's just not a part of his, it was not a part of his, artistic journey, I guess, if you will. And that doesn't mean he's not a wonderful actor, which he is. So you don't have to do it, but I love it. And a lot of people that I respect love it. Yeah.
Right, David D. Bottrell, he's a gay actor in Hollywood, and I talked to him
Mm.
about this. We brought up the subject because we talked about And the Band Played On, one of his first
Oh.
roles, but he talked about not really being in the closet when he started.
Ah.
Agents and agents, etc., casting directors knew, but they told him to kind of dial it down. Was it something that you struggled on early on as well?
For sure, for sure. Uh, I think we're about the same age, David and I. So,
Hmm.
it's a different time. And by the way, And the Man Play On was one of my first jobs too. And I got cut out. I had a great little bit of stuff that and it got cut out, didn't end in the final thing. So I still get some nice checks from it every once in a while. But if you watch it, I'm not actually in it. But I had a lovely scene with the wonderful actor Glenn Headley. She was amazing.
That was a
So
hell of a movie. That cast,
yeah,
and I talked to David, and David just had
yeah.
David said he was the most nervous at that time, not to forget his line because of all the star power that was in that scene.
Yeah,
So
it was a big deal, and then I was pretty devastated when my stuff was cut. But I got the clip, so I have it someplace.
okay,
Um,
maybe you can send that to me down the line. Then,
well,
yeah.
so yeah, it was a different a world than it is now. Uh, as far as acceptance of that kind of thing, like I can remember, maybe you'll think this is funny as I kind of do now. When I was at NYU, there were two guys who were in like the musical theater program, two dancers in the musical theater program, who at some party uh, got caught drunk and making out, and it was the biggest scandal at the school. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. I can't believe this. These are two dancers in the musical theater department at NYU. You know what I mean? It's like, hello, but the fact that at that time it seemed like this was so verboten it couldn't even be considered made me feel like you cannot be gay and have a career. You just can't. You got to
Right.
pick one. You can't do it. It's not possible. So over when I was in my early 20s and starting in LA, I can see my work not being very good. Honestly, I had a lot of auditions that I probably screwed up and were not very good because I think I was trying too hard to kind of butch it up and trying to be like something that I thought would fit in and I thought was what people wanted. And I just didn't do it very well, quite honestly.
Hmm.
And I did a play that was about an AIDS support group, like people with AIDS at the time in a support group. And I played a very flamboyant, like if you will, I suppose they would say the very gay one. Uh, and I kind of based it on a guy I knew, and and it was basically that character that I brought to NYPD Blue. That was my idea of that character. It was the same. It was a very upbeat, super positive, nothing will get me down, and just being, kind of out there and being myself and not worrying about it. And that was the idea that I had. So it was doing that play that kind of gave me the idea of that character. And also, some people from NYPD Blue saw that, happened to see that play. It was a kind of a nice hit here in LA, and
Hmm.
saw it. And so when they had this idea for this character, they brought me in, and I sort of did that same character, and that's what John Irvin was.
You're a best-selling author with the book of
Well,
essays
no,
called.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I have been I have written a number of like sort of short essay kind of
Okay.
story essay, personal essay kind of things, and some of them are in compilations that have done
Well, I
well.
mean, all
So
the
that's how
research
I
I've
would
done, they
say.
call you a best-selling author. So I'm going to
All
give you
right,
the
thank you.
props.
I'll go with
I'm going to
it.
give you the
Okay.
props, Bill. All right. So with your book of essays, I Love You, Mom. What got you into
Mhm.
writing there, and was that dedicated to your mother? I love you, Mom.
That's a piece about my mom. I some time ago I had the idea of um shows like The Moth, and there's a lot of kind of storytelling shows, very popular spoken word storytelling things. And I saw some of them and I thought, I think I could do that. And actually, it's funny you brought that all up because I had seen David Dean Petrell's one-man show, and
Mm-hmm.
he does a lot of those things. And so we didn't really know each other very well, but we were acquainted. And so I was like, "Can I take you to coffee and tell me about, how you sort of write these things and how you do it?" And he very generously, kind of opened up his process. And so I started doing that. It's a great thing to do in downtime or for fundraisers or things. I have a number of, kind of funny personal anecdote sort of stories that I've written down and can tell. So that actually is for this show, like a funny thing to say, because if people get the chance, they should go see Dave Dean Petrell's one-man show, where he strings a bunch of his pieces together to, with a theme to make a story, and he's brilliant.
Also, and this gains major respect from you. Besides your acting, you do commendable work with the men and women of the armed forces on the Handshake Tour. Talk about with the USO. Talk about how that came about. Do you have any family members who were in the service?
I don't, and in fact, it's quite the opposite. We lived in Tacoma when I was in high school, and Tacoma has Fort Lewis, a huge Army base, and Fort McCord, a big Air Force base. And my parents are they're too old to be full-on hippies, but were kind of granola-ishy.
Right.
And so I grew up with a very bad view of the military, honestly. I was like, we would see some of the guys, come in on the weekends into town, and I was like, ooh, we're the artsy ones. We're not, we're the artists. And so I had a not great view of our prejudice. And but NYPD Blue, was a very popular show with a lot of cops, fire people, military people. And so through that, I was invited out on a number of occasions with the USO and Armed Forces Entertainment to go wherever they send you on a holiday. We never got to pick. It's like, you can go here. And so I just said yes every time. And I had a brilliant time going on what they call handshake tours. It's not the same as the USO show with like the singing and the dancing. They call it a handshake tour. And we would go and sort of pass out T-shirts and sign some pictures and tour different workspaces of whatever people we were seeing all over the world, which is the most brilliant privilege I have ever had. And so I got to meet people from literally from generals to 18-year-olds who were just enlisted, and it didn't matter whether they're working in the kitchen as mechanics, as Top Gun pilots. I met them all, and guys on submarines, guys everywhere. And I have been so impressed by the commitment and the respect and the sacrifice, and it absolutely changed my mind. I mean, I had a full-on reversal in my sort of preconceived notions about the men and women in the service. And honestly, the very best thing that came out of NYPD Blue was this opportunity. So I've got to go to, I've met people all over the world, and in Japan, in Germany, in Italy, in the Middle East, and I would never have had those opportunities otherwise.
Well, and even though you're not dancing,
I've been on. Yeah, it just was an incredible experience.
Even though you're not singing and dancing, you're keeping the memory of Bing Crosby and Bob Hope alive when they used to do those shows.
Honestly, the truth is the military service can be really boring. It's like, there's a lot of downtime where not much is happening. And so I think it was a chance for us to kind of go in and just give people something fun to do, for an hour or two. And it was super enjoyable time. You might know one of the guys, Dennis Farina,
yes,
who I travel
the late
with
Dennis
all
Farina,
the time.
yes, from Chicago.
Oh my God, my heart! I cannot tell you how much I love that guy. He he's a veteran himself, and I think the two of us had a good time together. There's a little bit of an Abbott Costello kind of because he's a veteran and knows all he's talking about. And I literally was like, so what's the difference between the general and the lieutenant? And I didn't know any of the, I was like, what these little stripy things mean, and I had no idea. So the fact that I was so ignorant about it all kind of played off of his knowing what he's talking about, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Bill Brochtrup is my guest on Behind the Mic. We're going to take a quick time out and have more with him after this.
Team Keys and your financial services division manager, Whitley Brooks Edmondson, specializing in affordable insurance and investments. Call 248-403-0919 to book your appointment. Slugmaster, turning batters into hitters. Log on to slugmaster.com for a dealer near you.
Bill Brochtrup is my guest. He is PAA John Irvin on the Emmy Award-winning show NYPD Blue, the best cop drama in the history of television. No hands down. You're not going to tell me anything. I know Hill Street Blues might have set the tone, but NYPD Blue blew it out of the way. You're never going to see a show like that ever again. Bill, as we start our second segment here, talk about some of the early work for you on TV with legends like Angela Lansbury and Murder, She Wrote and Dick Van Dyke and Diagnosis Murder.
I know, isn't it? Oh, that's so funny question. Yeah, there's sometimes now that I think to myself, or with other friends of mine, other actors, you'll be like, I can't believe that I met those people. It's like it's really crazy, you know. I'll tell you, Angela Lansbury. Boy, that love. I mean, that's not just me. Everybody will tell you the same thing. I mean, what a wonderful, gracious, kind woman. And you know what they did on Murder, She Wrote too? I don't know if people tell you this a lot, but they hired, it was a lot of stars, old stars, some things. She often would hire people who needed to make their insurance, who hadn't qualified for their Screen Actors Guild insurance plan, and would hire them so that they could, get on the plan. I mean, so thoughtful, such a mensch. I did 2 episodes of that show, and it was my grandmother's favorite thing I ever did. So
there you go. What about Dick Van Dyke?
Do you know that? I mean, what a pro! What an amazing! It just came in, boom, 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 laid it down. And the thing I remember most about that show, the craft service. That's where the food is.
Yes.
The biggest, most beautiful spread I'd ever seen. I was like, okay, wow. So they know how to treat people right on this show. And it was yeah. Oh my gosh, what a pleasure and what an inspiration he is. My God, still going. I mean, it's an inspiration for all of us.
Well, him and Bill Shatner. Like Bill Shatner's 94 as well. So I mean, and I was talking to David, and I was talking to Christian, who worked on Boston Legal with him, and I said, I look at William Shatner. He doesn't look like he's 94, 95 years old. I think he's like maybe late 70s, early 80s. So
I know a lot of actors at NTS. We have a number of actors who are in their 80s and stuff, who are the leads in shows and carrying on and directing Shakespeare. And I think there's something about, of course, having your health, of course, but I think there's something about having a passion for some kind of work or project that I have noticed keeps people going in a way that inspires me.
All right, Bill, we're going to save the best for last. Obviously, as we talked about, NYPD Blue is my #1 all-time favorite show. 12 years, countless Emmys. I think 20 Emmys, nominated 84 times. Stephen Bochco was the creator. Talk about how that role of John Irvin happened to hit your radar.
Well, as I said, I had done this play that they had seen a kind of a character like this, and so I came in really there was an idea they were Gayla Grady, who played Donna Abundando, so talented. She had become very big and had gone off, I think, to Vancouver somewhere to do like a movie of the week, and was going to be gone for several weeks. And so I think they had an idea that they would bring in a kind of a funny temp, for several episodes. It had been done on Murphy Brown. Remember that show, Murphy Brown? They sort of have revolving like secretaries sometimes. So I think maybe that, I don't know who got the idea from whom, but that was the idea, was to bring on and so I came on for this. I think it was meant to be 2 episodes. And in fact, someone had just reminded me that I was working on Days of Our Lives. I had a tiny part on Days of Our Lives as a policeman, and I had to the callback for this. Callbacks when you come back for another audition. They see you once, they want to see you again. Callback for that NYPD Blue part conflicted with shooting on something on Days of Our Lives, and I had to tell them I'm sorry, I'm going to not do the show. I'm going to go to this NYPD Blue thing because it could be huge. And it was kind of a bird in the hand or a, or a who knows nothing. And I went and uh, the first line, I'll tell you, the first line of the thing was Detective Hello.
That's right, the Jimmy
And
Smiths. Yep.
to Jimmy Smiths, who this character you supposedly had kind of known in the past, and so I just sort of just went for it, and I was like, Detective Hello, in this kind of big voice, and Stephen Boschko's in the room. I've never seen this happen before to me. He fell out of his chair. I mean, he kind of fell onto the floor and was just laughing, and I was like, well, I guess that's going pretty well. So we kept going, and then I got the part, and I thought it was a big deal for me, and
well, that opening
and I
line,
thought,
and also Sipowitz's response and look, his
well, that's the
facial
thing.
expression was hilarious.
Bill
Oh,
Dennis Franz is brilliant, and to get that, that's the whole idea. Is it's supposed
right,
to make Sipowicz nervous and
right.
uncomfortable.
Yep.
So David Milch, who's such a genius. I mean, I tell you, people throw around the word genius a lot in this business, but he really is a genius. Um, he I said, am I supposed to, when we came to filming, I said, am I supposed to do it like that? And he was like, yes. And all that first day, the first day on the set shooting was the hardest thing. I had a ton of stuff to do. I was in every scene, and I was not, and the camera's moving around. The camera, if you recall, had funny ways of moving that was kind of unique.
Right.
And so it was just a very difficult, stressful day. And at the end of the day, I saw David standing, among the crew, kind of looking at me, just kind of staring at me. And I thought, huh. And, um, and then he just kind of nodded his head like, yes, and yes. And I thought, oh, okay, I think he's happy. And so then I did 2 episodes, which turned into 3, which turned into 4. And each week, he would find me somewhere out by my trailer or something and say, come out. He was like, oh, in the next episode, we're going to have you do this and this. Oh, no, wait, that's the one after that. In the next one, you're going to do. And I thought, how many of these am I doing? How many of these am I doing? And they just kept me the whole time. They never went back to that thing of having the rotating secretaries. They just kept me the whole time. And when Gail came back, because, she was coming back, I think they were like, we don't really need another, PAA. So they had me work upstairs, and I became upstairs John. And on the set, they had this awesome, big stairway with a landing that goes up to nothing. When you get up here, there's literally nothing up here, a bunch of lights,
Right.
And so they'd send me up here, and I'd come bopping down, every couple of weeks and say something funny and bop back up the stairs. And so after that, I just really never left.
You speak fondly about the late great Stephen Bochco and how much he meant to your career. Looking back, and I say this with the greatest respect, Bill, how ballsy was it for him to kind of like thumb his nose at Hollywood and write a character who was openly gay for a cop drama whose main character, besides being an alcoholic and racist, is bigoted?
Yeah.
Did you ever think of it like that?
I feel, oh my gosh, yes, of course. I feel like the beneficiary of the very good luck that at the time, Stephen was big enough. He's huge, he's a huge producer. I don't know if there's anything even analogous to it today. And he cast me just on his say so. He didn't have to. Now you have to be approved by the studio and the network, and everybody would have to be all these layers of kind of approval that someone would have to go through. And I wonder, I probably wouldn't have gotten approved. You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't have been. They probably would never approved this whole thing at the time. But he had enough power that he could say, "You're my guy," and that was the end of it. He protected us in a little bubble. NYPD, we shot in a little place like this. He didn't come out of the set barely ever, but we never dealt with the network and all of that political. I don't mean politics, but the politics of network television.
Right.
We never had to deal with, because he kept it like this, so we could just concentrate on the art. And there aren't very many people now who have that much clout, I guess. And so I feel like I'm the beneficiary of. He saw something in what I was doing, and I don't even know what it was, but I tried to keep doing it, and always be grateful to him. He it's like he gave me a stamped passport. It was some kind, it was almost, it felt like it was so validating to say somebody like this says, yes, you are, you're good. You're in.
I was just gonna
And
bring that up. I did read that, and you also talked about him giving you the thumbs up on a scene, and then basically your
yeah,
confidence just took off, and I guess the rest is history.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And another little David Milch thing, he came up to me in that first week and he just sort of looked at me and he said, I had done something I go in the last take he didn't like or something, I don't know. And he came up and he said, like, you protect the squad. You protect the squad. And I thought, oh, I love that's so simple. That's such a simple little direction. And done for the next 10 years of doing the show, if ever I was lost or wasn't sure how to do this, I would remember you protect the squad. And it's such a great, clear thing for an actor to have a direction. And it was something I could always fall back on. And that was David.
Here's another one of my opinions about the show, and see if you agree with me there. It's like the dynamic between you and Sipowicz was like one of finding an abandoned, injured dog who barks, snarls, and bares its teeth, but then a friendship, builds and trust ensues. And I know you work with animals as well, so I kind of
Yeah.
wanted to bring that in
Oh, that's
as an
funny.
analogy. But I mean, you kind of softened up this hard ass who didn't give a shit about
Yeah.
anybody, and would, I mean, he
Yeah.
was an equal opportunity hater. He just didn't pick on one type of
True.
people. He
No, he
hated
hates them all.
everybody. Yeah.
And God knows I don't know if they would create a character like that nowadays in television either, but it's brilliant. But um, I just had this idea that this character sees the good in people and sees and is in this very gritty and gray world. John was a little bit of yellow, a little flash of yellow, a little piece of sunlight, and that was always my personal kind of image for him. And what's great about network television is, and we did this. I was on the show for 10 years. The show ran for 12. I played this role in real time for 10 years, almost to the day. Um, and we started off, Dennis, the character hated me, made fun of me. Then at one point, he stood up for me when another cop made fun of me.
That's right.
I started cutting his hair, started babysitting his son at a certain point. And yes, you're right. By the end, I married him and his wife. I was the officiant at their wedding. So, but that took 10 whole years for us to get there in real time. In real time.
There was a couple scenes,
So,
especially when in the beginning, when you want to offer to cut his hair, you'd be like, "Detective," and then you'd be doing the thing with your fingers, and then he would go crazy and make sure nobody saw
oh
you
my
do
God.
that. And then there was another episode when he's in there describing. I think you were involved in an episode, maybe the painting guy, the insurance scam, but he was in the office, I think, talking to Fancy, and he just kept saying, "Gay John." Gay, I mean, he must have said "Gay John" 12 times in that entire scene, and I'm like, and he keeps pointing at him, "Gay John," and I'm like, oh my god. I mean, it's just, again, the
I
dynamic
know.
with you and
I
Sipowicz.
know.
Dennis Franz is a hell of a. I tried getting him
Oh,
on the show. He's like almost the president of the United States. I asked him several times. He's enjoying his time by himself, and I
yeah.
can't hate him, but because he's a Chicago guy, and a quick
Yeah,
story there.
yeah.
I met him. I was refereeing a grade school basketball game back in 1984, and we were at a school in LaGrange, Illinois, suburb of Chicago, and he was standing upstairs in the balcony watching either his niece or grandson or whoever playing this game. And I looked up and I noticed him right away, and he kind of smiled at me and he nodded his head. This was right after
Oh,
Die Hard and right before NYPD Blue. So yeah, I mean, he was a hell of a guy, and he went downstairs, and I shook his hand, and he was very personable. Also he was in
oh, 100%.
the package with Gene
Huh.
Hackman. That was a great movie as well. So
No, he's
yeah,
amazing. What can I say about Dennis? On any show, they have a call sheet. I don't know if people know, it's where
yes,
they have all it's where you put the names of the people, what time they have to be there and everything. And he's number one. So the number one person on the call sheet, it's just the first person. It's usually the biggest person on the show. If that person is sort of a dick, gives everybody sort of feels like they have the ability to be one too. And if the guy at the top is Dennis, who is the best guy ever, it's like, then how am I going to sit and complain about anything ever when I have Dennis, who's working, 10 times harder than I am, 20 times more stuff to do, and is carrying it off so beautifully. So he was the first guy to go up and talk to people with guest stars or co-stars or anybody on the show who was coming. He wanted to make it feel like it was a safe place for them to explore their art. He shake their hand. He'd also be the kind of guy who's like eating a donut and kind of laughing and making jokes, and they say action, and boom, then suddenly they're Sipowicz. It's like, I don't know how he did it, because he's a real sweet, very gentle soul. And then as soon as they say action, boom, there it is. His technique, his craft is off the charts, and he's just a kind person, and was very generous with me. Probably those haircutting scenes are my very favorite ones to do, because he was always so uncomfortable. I mean, the character so uncomfortable, and I'm in his space and touching his head and everything, and his cringiness the whole time it was hard not to laugh.
And
And
that was I think that was
with
on purpose, and Milch did that on purpose because he
oh
wanted the character to kind of
right
find
in his face,
exactly.
and he can't get away from it. It was just those were my favorite parts, probably.
You talked about Dennis. Talk about some of the other cast members: Jimmy Smits, Kim Delaney, Nick Turturro,
Oh my
Gordon
God.
Clapp, James
Well,
McDaniel.
I love them all. Jimmy Smits, so gracious and kind to me, because it wasn't ever written into the script, but it was my idea to play, and I didn't even really talk about it, but I would just play that. I figured John's kind of has a crush on Jimmy Smits. My God, everyone has a crush on Jimmy Smits, So when sometimes I just kind of be just looking at him, and he would notice, and as the character would sort of notice it, but never made a comment on it. Unlike sort of Dennis being like homophobic and thinking it was awful, he just sort of smile and take it like as if it's a compliment. And I thought that's such a great little dynamic that you can see if you watch the show. It was never really written about. There weren't scenes where we talked about it, but just the fact that it existed, I think really made a nice thing.
Yeah, the camera work, because the camera would sit on you while you would kind of look him up and
You catch
down,
everything.
So
Yeah, it
I
catches
mean,
everything. Yeah, so fun. And Gordon Clapp, it was a master class. He's so funny. He's so funny, and I was a big fan of his from before, from the John Sayles movies that he had done. I mean, he's a brilliant actor. And so getting to work with him was fantastic. I mean, everybody. Kim Delaney is just one of the very best people, And we did I don't know if people are aware of this, and we did a pilot to reboot this in 2019. They talked about doing a reboot, as they do of a lot of shows. And Kim and I were going to be on it together. We did film it. We were in New York for a month or something working on the show, and she and with a bunch of new actors playing new characters and everything. But she really stepped up and was sort of the leader of that pilot shoot. She took on the mantle of the number one on the call sheet person. She really took on that, and crews love her. I just think she's a very kind-hearted, beautiful person. So yeah, I love Kim.
156 episodes out of the 261 you made appearances on the show. Did you have any show favorites, you personally as Bill Brochtrup, and any John Irvin favorites?
Oh boy. When I think back on it, all seems a little bit like a dream, honestly. It's a long ago now. The haircutting scenes, of course. There was an episode where I got to punch this perp, and I think it was like it's something that people wouldn't have expected, that this guy, I can't remember what he said or why I was so angry with him, whatever, but like I just was like boom and punched him, and the rest of them are like, oh, that was great fun for me to do things that were kind of outside the box. Some of those very first episodes are the ones that stand out in my memory the most clearly. You always remember your first. So some of that and the giddy excitement that I felt at that time when, as I said, Mills kept saying, "Oh, you're coming back," and it was like, and at the wrap party for that season 2, the wrap party, the big party at a fancy restaurant in Hollywood, and Steven stood at the front door, Bochco at the front door, and kind of greeting everybody as he comes in. He's that kind of guy. Gave me a hug, and he whispered in my ear, and he said, "You're going to be here a long time." and I'm just like a kind of a guest star on the show, a young actor, and I was like, I didn't want to be like, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? I was just like, oh, awesome.
How about that of
And
a stamp of approval for your career, huh?
oh
Jesus.
boy.
Wow.
And I just like, so those early days on this show for me were extremely heady, like champagne, like bubbly, like just like when I think about that time, it's a little bit like, well, what's happening? And then suddenly I'm, doing interviews and getting asked about being gay, which was, to come back to your other question, it was very difficult about what to do about that at the time. Playing an openly gay character. I mean, I'm gay, and I had a publicist at the time who said you shouldn't say that. You should keep it a secret. And I tried that for my first little round of interviews that I did. And I felt just like a jackass, especially because I was like, half the writers are gay too, and they totally can tell, and they're probably thinking, what's this guy's problem? Um, so after that, then I came out in the press too, and I've never really regretted that. Uh, I just makes I think it's made my work better, and that's the most important thing.
There was a couple of lines also. I remember, I forgot what episode it was, but somebody gave you a smarmy comment or called you a sugar plum or something like that, and you're like, keep thinking you're not gay. When you walked out the door.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, remember
I
that one?
do
And
know.
then the other one,
Yeah.
there was an episode where I think it was with Kirkendall, and she said, "Perps get one phone call to your lawyer or your drug dealer," and then you come in and say, "Unless they're the same person." Hilarious. I mean, just that.
They did have a lot of fun things. Oh my God. I remember too that like when Dennis couldn't figure out the difference between prostate and
Yeah, that's
prostrate.
right. Prostrate. I
And
love it. And he kept it in the show too. I'm like, why
I
is
feel
he
like I
saying
left
that?
a little post-it on his desk with like the correct thing. One of the best things about my gig was that like I got to sit at that desk right in the front. So I saw every guest star and every person because everyone came in and out of that place.
Right.
And we started using the role as a kind of Greek chorus, a way for the audiences to see how they might feel about people, depending on how John, who has a lot of integrity, might feel about them. But it was a great vantage point to watch. There are many, many scenes where I didn't have lines or didn't have anything to say, but they would always do a take of my watching and looking and give them something to edit in. And I think they use that very well. And almost, I might say, I'm kind of the most proud of all those little looks because I think that they added something. I think it's unique, and um, yeah, I'm actually very proud of those.
I mean, you were flawless in every episode. I mean, again, like I said, in the first, detective, hello, and then and it was over the top. And then when you tried to kind of butch it up and be like, hey, no, when you
Yeah.
did the shaking the hand thing with your head down and trying to have a firm handshake, or you lift your leg up and Sipowicz sees that, I'm like, oh my God. I mean,
No,
Bill,
they.
you played it perfectly, and
Oh,
those
thank
are
you,
some
thank
some
you.
really great episodes. So, in your opinion, I'm going to ask you this: did the show run its course, or could have come back, or stayed for another 5 to 10 years if Milch didn't have those demons he had and he had to leave the show? And it's no slight to the writers who took over because you guys
No, no.
picked up where you left off. But do you think that show could have maybe run for another 10?
I think it was always up to Dennis, and how much energy he felt he could put out for that, and then he was giving so much. I think that the show did end in a beautiful kind of way. I thought the final episode was beautiful. Just was not a big deal. Just ended with he gets a promotion, but the day just continues, and we all say goodnight and see you tomorrow. Um, I think that was a beautiful way to end it. I would have kept going forever. Honestly, I would never left. I mean, they would have had to claw my little hands off that desk. I would never have left.
But with that kind of
And some people
writing,
didn't. Some people got bored. So I mean, I'm bored. Some of the actors who were on there, got like antsy to do other things or play other parts or whatever. I loved it so much. I even in episodes. Sometimes there are episodes where I have like one line or something, and so it's not super challenging. But I felt like the show just meant so much to me. I would never have left. So yeah, I would have run 12 more years easy.
and so, and I'm going to segue into this question now. So, did your work on NYPD Blue make it a smooth transition for you to have that character, Dr. Joe Bowman, on Major Crimes?
Um, No, I mean, I never thought that I would spend my life when I was a young guy, like in a theater. I never thought I would spend my life on police dramas. It's not exactly where I saw
Right.
myself.
Right.
And yeah, even now, sometimes I'll tell people that I've spent, 10 years on NYPD and 5 years on major crimes, and it's like that's a lot of it's a lot of cop shows, and they look at me like, oh, really? What, really? Because it doesn't seem like my natural milieu, maybe. But the major crimes was another heavenly experience. Creator James Duff is an old friend of mine, and again, I actually had the power to kind of offer me that part. He wrote that with me in mind, and so it has a lot of my humor and or a combination of his humor and my humor. And I really, really enjoyed everybody on Major Crimes. That's a show that I think, finished too early. I think there was absolutely room for that to go another couple of years, 100%.
What's
I don't think they
closer?
were
What
ready to be finished.
What's closer to your heart, theater or TV?
I love both, honestly, I do. I mean, it sounds like but because they're different to me. In the theater, every night we have to come back and try and do, even if we think we did the very best performance we ever could do, we got to come back tomorrow and do it again. Television, we shoot the scene, and once we get the one that everybody feels and everybody can feel it, if it's good, the crew knows it, everyone knows it, that was the one. And we forget about it, and we finish and we move on, and I literally never think about it again. I don't remember the lines, like 2 minutes later, it's out of my head. So even when you're asking about these some of the episodes, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I kind of remember that, because it goes away. And with the theater, we recreate every night. So they're just two different sort of disciplines.
Best advice for you personally and professionally in your career?
Oh Lord, I don't know. Don't be a victim, I think.
That's the best. Okay, do you have a worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I mean, don't be a victim to the business. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like
Right.
it's very easy to sit back and be like, well, they just won't cast me, or and so this business is as they say, marathon, and not a sprint. Or at least that's what I wanted when I started. My goal when I started was to have longevity in this, and to have the respect of my peers, and so that I wanted to be the kind of actor that people would say, "Oh, him, yeah, he's good. He's always good. That guy's always good." And you know, should have asked for more, maybe. That's what I wanted.
Anybody ever try to or give you any worse advice?
Um, when I was first starting out in New York, I met with this agent, and I was just like a stupid little 18-year-old or whatever, from Tacoma, and she said, "Why should I take you on when I have a roster of clients who've all been on Broadway and done this and done that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a really good point." I think I was meant to say, like, "Oh, because I'm the best thing ever," but I was like, "Yeah, that's a really good point. They've been doing Broadway since they were kids, and I haven't. Yeah, you should probably take them." So, oops.
Uh, okay, so I'm going to real touch base one more time on the reboot. You filmed the pilot in
Mm.
2019. If Stephen Bochco didn't pass away, does it take off, or it didn't succeed because was the bar just set too high with NYPD Blue?
I don't know the answer, because it was a brilliant experience. It was a magical experience for me. Um, it was written and directed by people who had been working on the show the entire time, back in the day, who were young men at the time, who are now older, and had all that experience with them. It had the imprimatur of everybody from Bachko. So while we were filming it, the crew, everybody was like, "Oh, this is amazing! This pilot's amazing!" And we heard such good buzz about it. And then for whatever reason, ABC didn't go further with it. And that's, again, all the kind of network politics. I literally have no idea if they didn't like it, or if it didn't fit with what they had, or what their many reasons might be. It made me very sad at the time, because it was so exciting, the idea of going back and recreating the thing. Um, and I got excited. They were going to film it in Brooklyn, and I thought, oh, I was kind of planning out my whole new life living in Brooklyn, and getting excited, and then it just suddenly didn't happen. Um, I don't know the reason, or we'll never really know the reason, but I have kind of tried to let it go with the feeling that maybe it wouldn't have turned out as good as the original. Maybe it would have tainted the original, which I think stands up very well. And I'm gratified to hear from people, like yourself included, that, it still speaks to people. Maybe this would have tarnished that reputation. Who knows?
Well, one thing I didn't like the premise of it was that Sipowicz was murdered. I mean, why
Yeah,
would you
yeah,
bring
yeah.
NYPD Blue back if you're not going to have? I know that his son Theo was now a detective, and I think Jesse
Yeah.
Bochco, Steven's son, was going to. I think he directed this,
Oh, he
if
directed
I'm
the
not
pilot.
mistaken.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Jesse's a great guy, and so yes, as far as like the stamp of approval from the Bochco people, like they had it.
I don't know,
Um,
Bill. I don't think I would
Maybe
have
it was
liked
a
it,
maybe it
especially
was a
with.
weird choice, the
Yeah.
killing off of
Yeah.
him, the character being dead. I think they probably did that because I think they realized Dennis was not going to come back ever.
Well, maybe you should
But
have came back and just had that episode where he did get killed. So now we can actually put
yeah,
it to bed instead of just saying, "Oh, he got killed."
oh yeah, it happened off screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like that at all.
maybe
One
that
what
had something to do with it. I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you have a copy of the pilot at all? Did you see
I've
it?
never seen it. I've never seen
I
it.
would love, boy, if I find that, I would love to see that.
I literally have not seen it.
This one question I wanted to talk about in it because we talk about the dynamic of Dennis and you and Austin Majors as Theo, and Austin Majors
Oh yeah,
tragically
yeah, yeah.
passed away, and you worked with
I
Theo
know.
when he was young and he was getting older. Talk about working with him and as an actor and a
Yeah,
kind
he's
of
a
kid and a
great
young man that he
kid. I
was.
mean, it's absolutely tragic. I certainly don't know the details of what happened. I remember his mother was awesome. He was a very bright, charming, smiling little boy. And it was great fun having him. I mean, and Dennis treated him very much like his son. I mean, they were very close when he was a kid and working on the show. I think he'd hang out in Dennis's trailer, and um, I guess it's not an unusual story to hear about kids growing up in Hollywood who then struggle once they become adults. That is a sad truism, but it's heartbreaking.
All right, Bill, we do a segment here called In a Word. I'm going to ask you a question about a person, phrase, or things that's happened in your life. You can answer in a word, fine. If not, expound as long as you want. All right.
Okay,
All
okay.
right, here we go. Bill Brochtrup, in a word, TV in 1995 versus 2024.
23 episodes, I would say. That's the biggest difference to me. We made a full season, 22 or 23 episodes, which is a lot. Now television, they make, as we know, on series we love, it's like 8 episodes. That's it. It's a very different schedule, very different ball game. Churning
All
out 23 episodes a year is a lot.
right. In a word, the theater scene in Los Angeles.
It's vibrant. I know the insides and outs too well. I was going to say like gossip ridden, but that's just that might just be me.
All right. In a word, Bill Brochtrup, Hollywood.
It's been a great ride. Great ride. Yeah. Up, down, around the thing. Great.
All right, there's a couple of softballs here for an easy one, but I just want to see if you can go
Mm.
a little deeper. In a word, Dennis Franz.
Mm. The word that comes to me is dear. He's just very, very dear.
In a
Mm.
word, John Irvin, if you can.
Mm. Hmm. Oh, I love him so much. I think he is like, I just think he's love. He's like yellow. He's yellow to me. He's yellow. That's how I think of it.
You're going
Uh,
to be
uh,
known for that for the rest of your life, correct?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I love that part. I think so positive. I don't know. I love him. I love him.
In a word, NYPD Blue.
Mm, uh, life changing, life changing.
Groundbreaking.
Oh, I mean, for me, life changing. For
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
I hope. For the world, I hope it stands up. David Milch said to me once, I was asking some kind of political thing, like, well, should we do this? Or are we trying to say that? And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Our obligation is to tell authentic stories, to tell great stories in an authentic manner. And that's what our obligation is. And I've always remembered that. And I think about that in the theater work I do, and our obligation is to tell stories authentically and truthfully. And I think it's my hope that this show was told in that manner, and that's what enables it to hold up, many years later when styles and trends and whatever have changed. But human truth that existed, truth between the characters and relationships, that is eternal. We know that from Shakespeare. Two things are eternal. It is my hope that the show holds up in that manner. And then for me personally, as an actor, and in every way, reputationally, financially, opportunity wise, life changing.
I feel this, and the irony here is that this type of show, NYPD Blue, I don't think would survive with all the storylines, what's been said, what goes on in a police precinct. What's ironic about the fact is that a gay character would be more accepted than the shit that would be written about language, some nudity, maybe some racism stuff. But you look at your character that people, the rights or the Christians or who people don't like that kind of lifestyle would be like, oh, this is not good for TV. Now it's accepted and everybody loves it. Whereas stuff back then, it wouldn't fly today. So
it's interesting because we were on at the same time as like a show called Queer as Folk. I don't know if you know that show. It was a very gay, with a bunch of gay characters living their love lives. It was on Showtime, I think, at the time. Reached a very different audience than NYPD Blue reached. And I think that it is necessary to have all those things. Queer as Folk focused on gay issues and things. NYPD Blue certainly did not. John never had much of a love life or anything.
Got your car stolen though.
but I forgot that. Yeah. But
oh my god.
But again, this show reached people who wouldn't have been watching Queer as Folk. This show reached the military guys or policemen, different sectors of people who might not have tuned into something else. So I think to move the world forward, if you will, takes all things. So I remain very proud of what we did.
Very well spoken. Final question in a word with Bill Brochtrup. Bill, your career.
Oh gosh.
You thought this was going to be an easy interview? Come on, Bill.
My career. Hey, I have been so lucky. I knew a million people like in acting class who could have done this just as well as I did. I swear to God. And but I had the opportunity. Opportunity came to me. Hopefully, again, when it came, I was prepared and ready and everything. But I know guys who opportunity didn't come to them in the same manner. And so I have felt very lucky to be on this ride for as long as I have been, and to have it be continuing. And it is up and down, and it's heartbreaking, and it's wonderful. And funny because I do these treks, right? I'm remembering all back. So I do these kind of walks and everything. You meet people from all walks of life when you're out in the trail with people. And when they ask you, what do you do? And you say, I'm an actor. They're like, oh, get very excited. And I see, how do I say? I see the excitement that it brings, and I feel very lucky that that's what I get to say. And I just feel lucky to have been a part of it. I guess I'd say it's like it's a great and horrible but great business.
Once a year, I binge watch all 12 seasons of NYPD Blue, and having you as a character, again, the greatest police drama in TV history, no question. Bill Brochtrup, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I wanted to have you on. You're a hell of an actor, and continued success, and enjoy your trek in the Chilean mountains, and be careful out there.
Thank you so much. Oh yeah, yes, exactly. Thank you. What a joy. And thank you for the kind words about the show. I really, and my work, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bill, take care. We'll be in touch. Thanks very much.
Team Keys, and your financial services division manager, Whitley Brooks Edmondson, specializing in affordable insurance and investments. Call 248-403-0919 to book your appointment. Slugmaster, turning batters into hitters. Log on to slugmaster.com for a dealer near you.
Big thank you again to Bill Brochtrup for coming on. He was PAA John Irvin in the best goddamn TV drama in TV history. NYPD Blue, no questions asked. Send me an email if you disagree, and then you're going to fight me. btmchgo@gmail.com. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment below for us to continue to bring you some great content. We got some good actors and some musicians coming up and some athletes. Again, we're at Hollywood's discretion how quickly we can get these shows made and edited and out to you to enjoy on the Z-Force Media Network on YouTube. Final thought, for the first time in 7 years, I decided to dust off the Marion Hossa jersey, number 81, the authentic Marion Hossa jersey, and go to a Hawks game. Of course, it was more for Red because it was her first Hawks game, but oh my God. I don't know where I was yesterday when I went to the United Center. It's cheesy as hell what's going on with this organization. Cheesy in-game hosts. The last time they did that crap was when in the Barron days of the late 90s all the way to 2008 when this team absolutely sucked. Now, Connor Bedard is the real deal, okay? They got some good players, but oh my God, the way they kowtow to some of these groups, especially the Native Americans, there has been no issue with the Blackhawk Nation and the other groups that are involved with the Chicago Blackhawks who complained about the Blackhawks using the Indian head logo or calling themselves the Blackhawks. This kowtowing is ridiculous. It's so stupid, and the fan base has changed tremendously. We are almost 10 years away from our last Stanley Cup championship. There's nothing left there from this dynasty back in the 2010s. Rock, paper, scissors with the PA announcer on the Jumbotron video board. You got to be kidding me. You have nothing better to do, and you bring in a guy, and no disrespect to this guy, DJ Oreo, playing music. What the hell are you doing to Frank Pellico? Frank Pellico, along with Harvey Wittenberg, is the foundation, have been there through thick and thin when this team went to the Stanley Cup in the 90s, made the playoffs for 26 straight years, and even hung around when this team was absolute dog shit. And now you're bringing in a guy called DJ Oreo to play music? It's bad enough I got to listen to that Taylor Swift shit. So, just unbelievable. I don't know what else to say. Oh, and then Tommy Hawk blowing the horn before the faceoff. This is ridiculous, folks. You're going to lose all these diehard Hawks fans. I'm talking about Hawks fans like me. I've been a fan since 1979. The people that are going to the games now, they got, I don't know what the hell they're looking at. They're wearing jeans that are ripped almost off. I don't understand what they're trying to do with this fan base, but I was not impressed with the Blackhawks on the ice, and especially the off-ice shit that's going on. It's terrible. So leave your comment below if you agree with me. Follow me on the Instagrams, on the socials, at the One Z-Force, at the One Behind the Mic, for Rock and Rick, and for all of us here at Behind the Mic. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Behind the Mic has been brought to you by Team Keys and your financial services division manager, Whitley Brooks Edmondson, specializing in affordable insurance and investments. Team Keys, keep elevating yourself. Call 248-403-0919 to book your appointment. And Slugmaster, turning batters into hitters. Log on to slugmaster.com for a dealer near you. Behind the Mic is a Did He Go production, produced by Z-Force Media. Stage manager is Heather Marie. The executive producer of Behind the Mic is Eric Ferguson.